Welcome to Helpful Humans, the podcast about people who are creating good in our world by helping and empowering others. I'm Kim Drobes, and I'm honored to share these stories with you. They get to the heart of who we are as human beings while exploring our inherent desire to make a difference.
My name is Kristen Wesolowski. I started working in the service industry to pay for college, and I stayed in the service industry because I love it and I love being around people. I was in a car accident after a long night of work. I was in the back seat. My friend was making a left-hand turn at a green light, and a gentleman ran the red light and hit us head-on. I was only in the hospital for a day and a half. I was told that I couldn't work for a few days, but I'm also very stubborn and said I would go back to work the day I got out of the hospital. I was like, oh man, that was a terrible experience. But once it was over, I was like, whew, I'm alive. I just need to heal. Time to get back to life. I was at work when I got the letter from the doctor, and I remember stepping outside and calling my fiance. I ended up having a grade 2 liver laceration from my seatbelt, which I had no idea about. I was told you can't lift more than 15 pounds, you can't jump, you can't climb, you can't bend at the waist, you can't bend at the knees. Pretty much anything that my job requires half of the time I couldn't do for 7 to 8 weeks. It was really when I got the letter that I felt helpless and in a panic, because I didn't even comprehend 8 weeks of not earning money. And that's when I really took a step back and I was like, I'm in trouble. I need help.
Kristen's situation is unfortunately common for people who work in the restaurant industry, where not working usually means not getting paid. When she found herself needing help, asking for that help turned out to be one of the hardest parts. But in order to tell you how Kristen's story ends, I need to tell you how another story began. Because today's episode is not only about charity and the spirit of giving, it's about entrepreneurship, love, life, death, and food. Really, really good food.
We met when I was a senior in high school. I was 17 years old and working at a little small, sweet community grocery store. He was working as a cook and 22 and had lived across the street from that grocery store and would come in to buy a little bit of groceries and most frequently packs of bubble gum to come through my line to say hi to me.
This is Jen, and she's talking about how she met the first love of her life and future husband, Ryan Heidinger. They were living in Indianapolis at the time, but soon after Jen finished college, they moved to Atlanta and got married. By all accounts, Ryan was a gifted cook, and he started working his way up in some of the city's best restaurants. He soon landed at Muss & Turner's, a deli by day and bistro by night.
My name is Ryan Turner, and I'm a partner in Unsake, which is a group of restaurants consist of Muss & Turner's, Local 3, and Common Quarter.
Ryan Turner remembers when Ryan Heidinger came to work for him. And yes, there are a lot of Ryans in this story. There's actually one more yet to come.
Quiet, unassuming, just an incredibly hard worker, not a complainer. And our existing chef de cuisine at the time, left about 9 months later. We tapped Ryan and said, do you want to take this on? Which he was willing to do. He became chef de cuisine and took us through incredibly tumultuous time as a startup restaurant, going through the recession. And we just had an amazingly close team that was just in the boat, rowing in the choppy, stormy waters with holes in the boat and sharks all around us day in and day out. And Ryan became way beyond our chef. He became like a brother to me.
The Heidingers were building a great life together, and a long-term dream to open their own restaurant started to form. They even had a name picked out, Staple House. Staple as in something that you love, a consistent, and house being the place one goes to receive it. But they needed money and more experience to get their dream rolling.
And so that's when we decided, well, let's just invite strangers into our house and cook for them. I'll serve and host and you cook and you'll talk about the food and, drink that you're putting together. And we'll just talk about life in the city and, all of the possibilities that surround us and kind of our desires. And then that's when we launched prelude to Staple House, the beginning of something that we knew we wanted.
The Prelude to Staple House Supper Club was wildly successful. Every Sunday, after they worked all week at their full-time jobs, they would host 10 people at $65 a plate at their home. Word got out quickly, and soon they were selling out within minutes of the invite emails being sent.
Ultimately, it came down to us. We just wanted to build a connection with people. And we knew that building a connection would lead to something. I mean, that's really all we knew. It was incredibly grassroots. We would send out just a general email to people, and through that, it became word of mouth, and it was kind of simple.
When they opened up the Prelude to Staple House, we were completely supportive of letting him prep and buy food through us, and he and Jenny wanted to do it on their own and not necessarily with us, which I understood completely because I was the same way. One of my purposes is to help others get to where they want to go, and it doesn't come with a disclaimer of you have to be part of my company. And I just love entrepreneurs. I love people that are willing to risk it and go for it.
Prelude was taking off, and the Heidingers started looking for a space to open Staple House. By December 2012, things were starting to come together. They found a space that they thought would work, they found a bank to provide lending, and investors to help build it. And then, right before Christmas that year, at the age of 35, Ryan was diagnosed with stage 4 gallbladder cancer and given 6 months to live.
We immediately fell into a black hole. I talk about that moment kind of a lot, and it's just completely earth-shattering every time you think, we just literally had everything we felt like it was coming together. And then someone tells you have 6 months to live. Someone tells you that. And it's not a choice you're making. So to hear something so devastating really brought us to a fairly dark place. And we didn't know what to do with it. We didn't know how to swim through it at all.
Jen immediately started calling family, and soon after they told close friends, including Ryan Turner, Ryan Heidinger's boss and mentor.
And it was right after that Ryan Turner came over to our house, and Chris Hall and Todd Mussman, and they said, let us help. And I mean, that was just within days. And that's really what ignited kind of the desire to do something that would allow us to not have to worry about any sort of financial hesitation. So we could literally do whatever we needed to do to get Ryan the best medical help, to make sure he went anywhere he needed to go to see the best doctors. I mean, this kind of, cancer diagnosis is very rare, obviously very unexpected, and kind of devastating. Every doctor we had talked to had said, this is not a curable one.
My partners, Chris Hall and Todd Mussman, sat across from Ryan and Jenny, I think it was December 26th, 2012, and asked their permission to raise money. We knew how to, we'd been raising money for great causes for years, and we knew how to do that, and they said yes. And I remember telling them vividly, you have no idea of the tidal wave of love that's about to flow over you.
So they started making calls, and the hospitality community really came together.
Everyone was like, what can I do? By, I think it was January 3rd, we got a group of about 32 people. And, I remember my opening line was, the good news is we've got 32 type A's around the table ready to help. And the bad news is we've got 32 type A's around the table ready to help.
And help they did. They orchestrated a fundraiser for the ages, and they called the event Team Heidi.
There was definitely at least 800 people in there, and it could have been more. And it was the biggest love fest that, you'd ask people who came, and it's just, the energy was just unbelievable. And that raised $225,000 between tickets and the auction, which, Chris Hall led the charge and did an amazing job. It was just unbelievable. And, no one in that room had not had someone, that has been stricken with cancer in their life. But for whatever reason, this scenario, these people struck a chord. And the rally around them started a movement.
We were overwhelmed, but completely and utterly just inspired. The power in which, people can come together for one effort. just a very selfless act of kindness. The amount of people embracing you, rooting you on, calling your name, hoping for the best, and a gigantic room full of those people is humbling and motivating. It becomes way bigger than you when you've got that type of support.
In addition to the Team Heidi benefit event, they were able to convince local restaurants to add a donation roundup line to their checks.
We were putting a line at the bottom of a guest check, and our staff were sharing the story of what was going on around the rally around Ryan and Jen, and people were asked to give if they were interested. And that alone raised $50,000.
So if you're counting, that's $275,000, an amazing amount of money, and quite more than Jen and Ryan actually needed.
But the very initial Team Heidi raised about $275,000, which was incredibly, again, just motivating, inspiring, humbling. And it was an amount of money that we absolutely didn't need to see all of. And during that year of his cancer, we ended up donating a good amount of it to other individuals that we heard who were needing help around our industry.
And thus the Giving Kitchen was born, out of that beyond expectation response to Ryan's cancer diagnosis. The Giving Kitchen is now a fully functional nonprofit designed to provide hardship grants to restaurant workers in the Atlanta area, and Ryan Turner became the founding board member and the board chair for the Giving Kitchen.
I wish I could tell you that there are other organizations throughout the country. That's something that is, as we look at being a very young organization, and right now our focus is just restaurant workers within just the 30 counties of Atlanta. And then hopefully there's a way for us to, either hand the playbook to someone or as an organization we grow and make this available nationally, because it is relevant in every marketplace, literally, not just in our country.
My name is Stephanie Gaylor, and I'm the Executive Director of the Giving Kitchen. So we consider ourselves part of a benefit package for the restaurant industry. Just like if you worked for a corporation, you would have paid time off, you would have health insurance, you would also likely have an emergency assistance program. That's just a benefit that we provide to an industry instead of one company.
So the Giving Kitchen began to thrive. Jen and Ryan became the face of the charity, and their energy became divided between caring for Ryan's health and propelling the charity forward. The dream of Staple House had been pushed to the side. That is, until a 3 a.m. email came through from Ryan Turner.
I put it out there to Ryan and Jen that I think they need to pursue their dream restaurant of Staple House, regardless of the situation. And personally, I felt that Ryan needed something strong emotional connection to the other side of this battle to pull him through. Not a, hey, buddy, get better, we'll open up your restaurant. It was more of, we're going to do whatever it takes and put all of our resources and connections, and we're going to open this up. And why not make it a mechanism to give back to the community that has lifted you up in your time of need? And he and Jenny resonated with that. And then, Ryan Smith was quickly on board. Of course, Kara was on board. And that's really where the journey started.
I know I promised you one more Ryan in this story. Meet Chef Ryan Smith. He and his wife, Kara Heidinger, yep, she's Ryan Heidinger's sister, immediately wanted to help bring Staple House to life.
At the time, Ryan and I were forming a very strong relationship and friendship. And we had recently taken this crazy trip to New York City, and it was basically like 24 hours of eating and drinking, and we really kind of bonded on that trip. And he was, in this place where was unsure of what direction to go. He was fighting cancer, and Staple House had been put on the back burner and hadn't even been talked about for a long time. And he wasn't trying to convince me to be a part of it. He was just like, what do you think about this? Should I do this? I'm kind of thinking about it. And he read me the email, and I was, without hesitation, was like, I want in. I don't even know what that means, but I want to be a part of this. Let me do this with you, and I kind of saw it as like a way to help him get his dream and pursue it and find it.
It ignited kind of everything inside of him and us as a couple, building Staple House and coming together again with Ryan Turner, who suggested we keep that dream alive. That was probably, outside of hearing 6 months, losing the idea of Staple House was basically tied with devastation. And when he came to us after that initial Team Heidi and said, I think we can keep moving. I think we can make Staple House become, medicine for you. We can make it more purpose-driven. And that's exactly what we decided to do. To see it at the very beginning stages of coming to fruition was extremely motivating and equally heartbreaking. I mean, it was definitely something I think Ryan knew fairly early on, that he would be able to know that it was going to happen, but never see it actually be birthed. It was very bittersweet.
Planning Staple House invigorated Ryan Heidinger. The restaurant would be the for-profit subsidiary of the Giving Kitchen, with all after-tax profits from the restaurant ultimately benefiting the Giving Kitchen. But even as their dream was moving forward, Ryan's health eventually worsened and he lost his battle with cancer.
He passed away in January of 2014, which is just about 13 months after the diagnosis.
I remember my last conversation with him, and I asked him, he wouldn't have changed a thing. And, he made lemonade out of lemons in such an amazing way. And it was his decision and choice to have a certain mindset around this diagnosis and what he was going to do with it. Without that, and without Jenny right by his side, and both of them accepting what was going on and being willing to share it and to use it in a positive way, this wouldn't have happened. One of the last things that happened before he passed was that the commitment letter came through to capitalize the construction of the restaurant. And I was able to look him in the eyes and say, it's not a matter of if now, it is when this restaurant will open.
A few days after Ryan passed, the Staple House crew got the word that they would be getting the lease on the restaurant space that they had sought after for so long.
So we knew that was going to be the spot for us. It was actually the original space that Ryan and I looked at when he first started looking at spaces, and it was our dream spot. So that's ended up being where we was in this beautiful 2-story brick building, and a place that we call home.
I went to Staple House on a recent Friday night early in the evening, and I grabbed a seat at the bar. As I settled in, I noticed how much care the servers took when explaining and presenting the food to the tables around me. And by the way, the food looked amazing. Staple House features an a la carte menu with an array of small plates that are meant to be shared.
My name is Kara Heidinger, and I am the general manager at Staple House and business partners in operation with Ryan Smith and Jen Heidinger. The focus of the food is what's local, what's available, and kind of the mood of the kitchen. So the chicken liver tart is the thing that people are really enjoying a lot. We have Grandma Lillian's potato bread, which I'm especially fond of because Chef and I named our little daughter Lillian after her great-grandma. Yeah, so I'm a little nostalgic for that delicious bread, kind of locally sourced ingredients, but executed in a way that the kitchen's excited about.
While at the bar, I ordered an Ivy League cocktail, a rye drink with a hint of lavender, and I chatted with bartenders Sharitha and Ben. And I asked them, does it feel any different working here compared to other jobs they had had in the service industry?
It brings a whole new light and kind of fulfillment to the job. I've always enjoyed the service industry, but being able to do some good for other folks in the service industry while doing your job it's a good feeling.
What you're doing, makes a difference. It just helps coming in and, having fun and having a purpose behind what you're doing.
Staple House opened about a year ago to rave reviews. Since then, they have received a ridiculous number of accolades. GQ named them Restaurant of the Year. They are on Bon Appetit's, Eaters, and many others' lists of best new restaurants. And the restaurant and Chef Ryan Smith each received James Beard nominations.
So we were all pretty overwhelmed and honored, to be so new and to get a nod like that was pretty special.
It really was an immense honor, and it was something that catapulted the business for us. And we always say if that's what it takes to bring people in these walls so we can do our job, which our job to us is being welcoming and gaining trust. I mean, that's really ultimately, I think, what the service industry in its entirety is about, is you have to gain trust. And of course, if you produce something that's pretty spectacular, it happens to be pretty good food and beverage, then, you're hitting the mark pretty high. And that's exactly what it's been for us, is exposure for the Giving Kitchen, exposure for this entity that is the lighthouse for the Giving Kitchen. And yeah, it kind of changed business for us.
Here's Stephanie again, the Giving Kitchen's executive director.
In just over 2.5 years, we've raised $2.5 million. We've actually distributed over $800,000, which is really significant to us when you think we had a really hard time getting started. One of the challenges we faced was a pride issue. We were not prepared for the struggles of having to convince people to apply for the money. None of us want to ask for help. None of us want to think that we can't handle it ourselves. And I think the industry attracts a type of person that wants to serve others. Therefore, they are less likely to want to receive the help themselves.
The average grant from the Giving Kitchen is $1,500, but they also offer a matching grant that can go up to $2,500.
A matching grant is our program that encourages the restaurant owners to get some skin in the game. We want them to support their employees also. We also want to give credit to those who are already doing that. So when a restaurant raises money on behalf of an employee, we match that money up to $2,500. And it's something that's been happening, a pass the hat in the restaurant industry when a coworker's in crisis has existed long before anyone ever thought of the Giving Kitchen. So we're just a formalization of that process.
Okay, remember Kristen from the beginning of our story? Well, she was a recipient of one of those matching grants.
2 of my coworkers worked a shift, and whatever tips they made that night, they gave to me. I've never been so overwhelmed with support from people. My coworkers were elated that the Giving Kitchen would be willing to match it. And as soon as they knew about it, they tried harder to get more people to come. That was overwhelming in itself, the fact that people stood up to that challenge. But knowing that the Giving Kitchen was applauding my coworkers for doing something out of the kindness of their hearts makes me want to help other people even more. It's just something that makes you feel good.
Born out of tragedy and nurtured by community, both the Giving Kitchen and Staple House approach their paths with a sense of gratitude.
And it floods us with just immense appreciation. I always get emotional because continues to be such a life-changing just force that we have an honor to live by, that we really are just full of appreciation and gratitude for people coming to us to show their dedication, really. And what a powerful opportunity we have to, share a voice and to be something for someone else in their time of need. And we're grateful for it. It's a very grounding opportunity that we have. And it's pretty special.
This story was originally created a few years ago, but the Giving Kitchen and Staple House are still around and still doing amazing work. In today's pandemic environment, the Giving Kitchen is in overdrive trying to help restaurant workers in need. Check out their website, thegivingkitchen.org, to find out how you can get involved or how you can request assistance. Staple House is currently delivery and pickup only, and you can check out their offerings Wednesday through Sunday at staplehouse.com. Theme music for Helpful Humans is provided by the amazingly talented K. Michelle Dubois. Check out Michelle's latest offerings at her website, kmichelledubois.com, or search for her on Spotify. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider giving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you happen to listen to your podcasts. I would very much appreciate it. Thanks for listening.